Okay, so how did you find out that you had cancer?
I had a lump on my breast that actually you could even see. It was near the nipple part. And so I went to the doctor one day and I just asked him, what is this thing? And he said, okay, well, you have to go get a mammogram. So I got a mammogram. They didn't like the way that came up, so then I had to have a ultrasound. And then they said I was okay. I didn't have breast cancer, it was just a cyst. So I said to the doctor, well, where do we go from here? And this is now the second doctor. And he said, well, you could just leave it there or we could just take it off. You know, I guess I would say take it off because it might turn into cancer. So that was fine with me. So he just does it in his office. And so I was in his office and they just numb you a little bit because they're going to, you know, cut into you. And my first inclination that something was wrong was when he cut into me and he goes, oh my God, what is this? And well, I'm a nurse and I know usually nurses and doctors don't say something when the person can hear them. And I knew that was spontaneous and I knew that meant something wasn't good. Well, it wasn't good because it was cancer. You know, people talk a lot about, you know, they're afraid of operations and that and they're afraid of the pain and that. They pretty much, I won't say you're, like if you didn't have an operation as far as pain and that goes, but they pretty much give you enough medication that, yeah, you're sore and you hurt and the movements, but it's not like you can't do some daily things, so you can keep busy instead of just lying down. And I knew that was very important for me, especially since I'm older. So that's why I would go out in the garden and do little things, you know. I would come in, I love to work jigsaw puzzles, and I would come in and work the puzzles, and I like to read, so I would read, you know, but I would be sure I didn't just stay in bed all day, because that's not very good, you know. Even if you can't do much, if you're just up and around, that's very important. Didn't have too much trouble with it, a little bit with the lymph node thing, but I kept up the exercises, and I think that was it. It doesn't do any good to dwell on it, but the thing about breast cancer, especially of the breast, cancer especially of the breast, is that nobody says anything to you about it, because that's a subject, the breast, that people just don't say, well, how are your breasts today, you know. So nobody says anything to you about it, so unless you think about it, it really doesn't matter. And I just didn't think about it, you know. Made my choices, done what I had to do, and that was it. It did bother me to have to have the first, to have to have the first one off originally, because then I wasn't equal. But the second one was then I was equal. So that was better, you know. So you try to look at it positively like that, in positive ways, so you aren't thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be deformed, or I'm going to be ugly, or, I, you know, I suppose if you have a husband, oh, he's not going to like me, or, you know, like that anymore. And so I would just try and think about things that made me laugh, which was that I didn't have to wear a bra, or that I was, or it wasn't, but you know, but it's just like it. And as much as they talk about cancer, it's almost like an invisible disease, since nobody will talk to you about it. And just once in a while, I would think that I really wish somebody would, you know, that I could say a little bit about how I was feeling, that, you know, it's not normal. And especially not when I just had one and not the other, you know. It's not the norm for people, but I would walk down the street in the summer and people would look at me, but I can only name on one hand anybody that actually noticed that I didn't have any breasts, or that I just had one. So then the only good thing I thought about getting the other one done was then I wouldn't look odd. But it never bothered me that I looked odd, because I wouldn't get the bra and have one side padded and the other one not. And so that didn't bother me when I found out that nobody would ever say anything to you. Nobody says anything to you about breast cancer. You could wear a big sign that said, I have no breasts, or I had breast cancer. It wouldn't matter. They just don't say anything to you. My own family didn't say anything to me, you know. And I found out later that it probably looked a little weird to have one and not the other. But, you know, that's just the way it was. So now here I am and I don't have any. And so that was, I thought, wonderful, because now I'm just flat. And I don't have to ever worry about bras again. Um, so I don't.